What startups need more than capital is scale. You want to know what these large enterprises have a lot of? Scale. Very different capitalization structures that allow them to invest in innovation and disruption very differently. But there is a way that they can work much more closely together. Why wouldn't we want to invest in that startup? If we really believe in the startup and think they can bring value to the enterprise, why wouldn't we want to put some money into the startup also?
Last topic is actually from Paul Graham here, which is don't talk to CorpDev. This is actually an interesting article from 6 years ago, where he basically says it's usually a mistake to talk to CorpDev unless A, you want to sell your company right now, and B, you're sufficiently likely to get an offer at an acceptable price. In practice, that means startups should only talk to CorpDev when they're doing really well or really badly. Basically says CorpDev is going to waste a bunch of your time. They're going to promise a bunch of things to you, and it's a distraction. Distractions are the thing you can least afford in a startup. Conversations with CorpDev are the worst sort of distraction because as well as consuming your attention, they undermine your morale. Actually, this article is why Applico is creating value, right? A few episodes ago, we talked about the relationship and partnership that we have with Laz, the second largest parking operator in the country. You're about to see more news come out around some acquisitions our clients have been making, around investments that our clients have been making. And what Applico is doing is we're helping. What is Applico's role in helping to level the playing field against big tech? We're helping the large traditional enterprises do deals with tech startups, right? And we have, I think you got big tech over here putting their thumb down on the incumbents and putting their thumb down on the up and coming tech companies. How can these two groups work more closely with one another, right? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And these are both enemies of tech monopolies. But the problem is, how do they work together? And this is Paul Graham's article, which says they're actually all a waste of time if you're a startup trying to talk to a large enterprise. And that is actually a lot of what Applico does, is we're that bridge to strike partnerships, right? It's a partnership. It doesn't have to be an acquisition. It doesn't have to be an investment. But what startups need more than capital is scale. You want to know what these large enterprises have a lot of? Scale. And they got some capital too. And so the question is, how can that tech company, that up and coming tech company, bring value to the enterprise? The answer is there's a lot of ways. And how can the enterprise bring value to the startup? And also the answer is there's a lot of ways. The key is figuring out how to thread that needle, how to not waste the time of the startup because they're busy, and how to provide value to these enterprises, because these enterprises can't make the sort of investments in technology. They can't subsidize the sort of value from a financial standpoint for product development that these tech companies can, because they've got VC money. And VC money is more than happy to invest in these kinds of things. They have very different capitalization structures that allow them to invest in innovation and disruption very differently. But there is a way that they can work much more closely together, and that starts with strategic partnerships. And that's why, over half of the people in Applico are tech entrepreneurs and operators. So we know how to navigate the big enterprise. We know how to sort through a bunch of stuff that startups don't want to and don't need to sort through, don't have time to sort through. And we know how to bring golden little nuggets to startups and say, hey, would this be of interest? Because we've already done a lot of the work with the enterprise to figure out what could move the needle for them and what they need to do to get their own house in order so that they could really partner successfully. And we'll handle all that stuff. We'll kind of extract and abstract a lot of that work and just madness away from you, which is really a lot of what Paul Graham's article is about here. But, let's talk about how you could add value, startup. Let's talk about how you could accelerate what the enterprise is trying to do and how they could also help you too. That's the kind of conversations we're having with startup founders. And that's the kind of deals that you're going to see. You've seen some about, you're going to see more and more news about. Where Applico Capital comes into all of this is to say, the enterprise, the startup is creating value for the enterprise, but by the nature of this partnership going through, the enterprise is creating a lot of value for the startup, right? By bringing scale to the startup and credibility and brand and a whole bunch of other things. So why wouldn't we want to invest in that startup? If we really believe in the startup and think they can bring value to the enterprise, why wouldn't we want to put some money into the startup also? And that's what Applico Capital is doing, either leading that round if the enterprise is too capital constrained and just can't justify it to their shareholders, or co-investing alongside the enterprise if they can invest or take a minority position or possibly do an acquisition. But it's mostly around taking minority investment stakes. So we want to put our money where our mouth is, just like our clients want to be able to share in the upside that they're bringing to the startup when possible and when appropriate. And that's the beauty, right? It's bi-directional synergies. You're accelerating everyone's timeline to get to where they want to be. You're reducing the downside and the risk that the enterprise has to take on these digital and disruptive innovation initiatives. And that's the model. Hi, I'm Alex. Thanks for watching the show. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, but even better, make sure to follow us on Odyssey, follow us on Rumble, and text us 203-646-5159. Text the word Monopoly. You'll be subscribed. You'll get updates about when we're going live, our latest videos, and we'll send you even a little goodie bag. And in the event that we all get banned from big tech, we'll still be connected.